तो मैं धन्यवाद करना वा सुखी वाहीवाला जी का और जतिंदर सिंह जी का जेड़े कि इत्थे सवेरे आए साढ़े कोल 2 ग्रुप्स नाल उन्होंने गल की है और इन्नी लॉन्ग स्टे करके साढ़े नाल हुण साढ़े वॉलंटियर ग्रुप को मिलने वास्ते इत्थे वेट कर रहे हैं. सो टिल अदर्स कम इन आई वुड लाइक कि स्टार्ट कर दईए क्योंकि टाइम नहीं तो घट होएगा इन्हों को कहण वालियां और सुनन वालियां बड़ियां गल्लां ने. तो ये जड़ा सैशन है वी विल ट्राई टू कीप इट एज ए क्वेश्चन आंसर सैशन इंस्टेड ऑफ ही टॉकिंग टू यू बिकॉज कुछ टाइम की नज़ाकत और कुछ तुहाडी अपनी रिक्वायरमेंट किस तरह की हैगी है इट विल डिसाइड हाउ द सैशन वुड गो ऑन. मैं बड़ी ब्रीफली इन्हों के बारे में दसांगा कि लिस्ट बड़ी लॉन्ग हैगी है. तो he is a very successful business person. He is a professional speaker. He has been, you can see him on the TED Talk, जिन्होंने देखा है TED, TED Talk. Forbes magazine has recognized him as a judge, entrepreneur, and as an official business mentor. Now, ਇਹ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਸਕਸੈਸਫੁਲ ਬਿਜ਼ਨਸ ਪਰਸਨ ਹੈਗੇ ਨੇ ਉੱਥੇ ਹੀ ਆਪਣੇ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਜਿਨ ਸਾਰੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਵੋਲੰਟੀਅਰ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਸਾਰੇ ਆਪਣੇ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਕੁਝ ਨਾ ਕੁਝ ਕਰਨਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ ਹੋ. ਸੋ ਇੱਥੇ ਸਾਡੀ ਤਾਰ ਬੜੀ ਮਿਲਦੀ ਹੈਗੀ ਹੈ ਵੀਰ ਜੀ ਨਾਲ ਤੇ ਉਹ ਵੀ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਇੰਨਾ ਕੁਝ ਕਰਨਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ ਨੇ ਔਰ ਕਰਦੇ ਪਏ ਨੇ ਐਟ ਹਿਜ਼ ਓਨ ਲੈਵਲ. ਸੋ ਵੀ ਕੈਨ ਲਰਨ ਅ ਲੋਟ ਫਰੋਮ ਹਿਮ. ਉਹ ਹੀ ਇਜ਼ ਏ ਜਤਿੰਦਰ ਸਿੰਘ ਜੀ ਔਰ ਵੀਰ ਜੀ are co-founder of Sikh Entrepreneur Society. So the address is sikhentrepreneur.com and they have also started a Sikh role model organization. The name of the website is again sikhrolemodel.com. So you can visit these 2 websites and learn more about what they are doing. ਤੇ ਮੈਂ ਜਿੰਜ ਆਪਣੇ ਅਸੈਂਬਲੀ ਵਿੱਚ ਵੀ ਕਿਹਾ ਸੀ ਕਿ ਅਸੀਂ ਸਿੱਖ ਇਨ ਸਪੋਟਲਾਈਟ ਕਰੀਦਾ ਤੇ ਜਦੋਂ ਇਨ ਪਰਸਨ ਸਾਡੇ ਕੋਲ ਆਉਂਦੇ ਨੇ ਦੈਟਸ ਅ ਗ੍ਰੇਟ ਓਪਰਚੁਨਿਟੀ ਵੈਨ ਵੀ ਹੈਵ ਸਿੱਖ ਰੋਲ ਮਾਡਲਸ ਵਿਦ ਅਸ. ਤੇ ਮੈਂ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਟਾਈਮ ਨਾ ਲੈਂਦੇ ਹੋਏ ਮੈਂ ਵੀਰ ਜੀ ਨੂੰ ਕਹਾਂਗਾ ਪਲੀਜ਼ ਟੇਕ ਓਵਰ ਐਡਰੈਸ ਯੂ. Thank you ji.
ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ. Well, thank you very much. ਕਿ ਮਤਲਬ it's more about Q&A. All the ਗੱਲਾਂ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਸੁਣੇ ਆ they're not all true. I haven't done anything. So the reality is that we're still on a very young journey. ਜੋ ਵੀ ਅਸੀਂ ਹੈਲਪ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ ਨੂੰ ਜਿੰਨਾ ਵੀ ਅਸੀਂ ਹੈਲਪ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਉਨਾ ਹੀ ਘੱਟ. So any questions? The reality is what we were talking about earlier on with the children was about attention, about how to focus themselves with body language, psychology of 3 different areas which are with the physiology, our communication process, with humans, interaction between each other, of physiology, we had tonality, and then we also had language as 3 main modalities for contact. And I think Amarjit's already got a hand up there, buddy. Go for it.
Vijay, I wanted to ask a question, which is that at this time volunteers hanging in. We're all volunteers here.
Absolutely.
Our intentions are honourable. We want to create a good learning environment. Could you please give our teachers, all of us, tips on what is necessary, what the prerequisites are for creating a good learning environment, going from the known to the unknown?
Amazing. Okay. So if I could just use this, is it okay if I just put things out here? Yeah. It's a really deep question. Is it okay if I go into depth of it or just want to touch it very quickly? Okay, so thank you, Vijay. Yeah. So if please, you may be familiar with this as well, I'm very certain, but there's 4 stages of learning. If I go through them, then you'll understand where I'm coming from. And please, if you've learnt it before, then Waheguru once again, just layer it again, if it's okay, yeah? Because none of us know everything, myself mostly included. So if I suggested there were 4 clear steps of learning here. Take it now? 1, 2, 3. Actually, we need one more, don't we? See, I start off with not being able to count. This is going to run out, but we'll try our best with it. Okay, so 4 steps.
If you want to not see it.
Oh, here you go?
Yeah.
That's even easier then. Perfect.
But it's not with this pen. It's like half lali or pen the back na.
Pen the back.
For that.
Yeah, then we'll try again. We'll try again. Yeah, I'll get quickly because I don't want to waste too much time with your time.
But you can use it if you want to. I always.
Okay.
Anything like that. Yeah, anything like that.
ठीक है, even better.
Yeah. So
I'll use this one, है ना?
Yeah.
ठीक है.
Even
Perfect.
that can be used.
Perfect. Perfect. In which case, then I'll cover it and do it again here. So there's 4 stages of learning in specific. All of us have the same 4 stages. And it's amazing to see that within children, how we can actually integrate. Because if we truly go back to the depths of learning, we'll connect with every child easier, and ourselves as well, right? So the 4 stages in specific, let's just say stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, and stage 4. So if you've learnt this before, brilliant. If not, then please just follow through. The first stage is also seen as what we classify as unconscious. You have to excuse my spider writing, plus it's catching up there. Unconscious incompetence. You know, it would have been easier on there, but it doesn't matter, it's catching up. So unconscious incompetence. Yeah? Stage 2 is when we have conscious. So it's when it's conscious, again, the word's incompetence. Does that make sense? And the third stage is when we have conscious, and the next one now becomes competence. I'll cover this again. And then the final one is unconscious once again, but this time it's competence. It's not catching with me quick enough, but no, I'll go through it. I need a bit of practice with this one, I'm afraid. But I'll get there one day. So unconscious incompetence. Okay? What have you guys there? We'll do it that way. How's that?
Whatever way you want.
Desi banda, desi kam. So it's easier. So unconscious, I'll just call it this way, so it's uncon, and then incompetence. Can you see that? This one then becomes what we call conscious, and then again it's incompetence. This one is conscious competence. This one is unconscious competence. Has anybody seen this before? No? Well, that's really lovely. Great. So I'll learn something today then. Unconscious competence is when we do not know what we do not know. It's simple. If I haven't told you this before, if you didn't know this before, you didn't know it. Now that I've pointed it out, all of a sudden, the same graph has now become conscious incompetence, hasn't it? So I'm not quite sure what this is, but now I know that I don't know. Does that make sense? A child is exactly the same. We actually all learn the same way. So I'm going to use a reference of a child. I don't know what I don't know. Now I know that I don't know. Over here, the possibility has now become that I now know it. So I'm consciously competent with it. And over here, it becomes unconscious again. So if I can give you an example with my own son, if I can, yeah? It'll be the easiest way. There's a few points within this that I'll draw in a moment. When he was 6 years old, this is the genuine truth, he came up with this conversation. When he was 6 years old, he said to me, "Daddy ji, can I drive the car?" By the way, he speaks Punjabi with me only, so he didn't say it in English, I'm using it for the sake of the conversation. "Daddy ji, can I drive the car?" So me being a father, "Yeah, of course you can," knowing he's not going to be able to drive the car. So I gave him the keys, make it better. So he sat down in the front driver's seat, and he sat there. So he sits there, he goes, "Right, what do I do?" He was sitting there, "What shall I do?" I said, "First things first, can you see over the wheel?" Muskarana, don't worry, Sharmanda nahi, yeah, wait, just relax. He goes, "Can I see over the wheel?" So he puts both his hands on top of the wheel, and he looks over the wheel on tiptoes. "Yep, I can see over the wheel." I said, "Great, can you touch the pedals?" "Yeah, let's go over the wheels." Puts his feet on the pedal. "Yep, I'm ready. What should I do now?" I said, "Can you go over the wheel?" So he puts it on the wheel and touch the pedal at the same time. At which case he started going, "No." I said, "Great. So now, the moment you can touch the pedals and touch the wheel at the same time and look over it, you can drive." Is that it? I said, "Yep, there we are." So then, before then, he said, "I can drive." So he came up to me and said, "Can I drive?" So he was unaware that he couldn't drive. Is that right, Emoji? Now he moves to the place where he now consciously knows he can't drive. Not yet, not until he can touch the wheels and touch the pedal at the same time. Is that fair? So then he waited. Yeah? If I point these out to yourself in different points, this point here is what we call the identification point. That point is an identification point. This point is the key for us today. This is the education point. Identification and education. This is where we all come into the room. At this point, if you can ignite the child in a warm way, that they don't know how to do something, and now they know they don't know how to do something, they will automatically ask you, "How can I?" And this is like what we call an open textbook or an open book area where you can now layer into into the unconscious brain because they're in the will. They want to know more about it. Is that fair? I know we've got a number of teachers in the room, and you're all teachers obviously at some stage, but professionals as well. So this is the point that we're trying to focus towards as a child. So after this point, they start to learn how to do it, and then they actually become consciously competent. They start looking, competency aa jandi hai. Yeah, kar sakde ha. So this point is when he turned around and came to me afterwards and said, Daddy, when he was 10, he's 12 now, when he was 10 years old, he said, Daddy, can I drive now? I said, he caught me at the wrong time. I said to him, maybe a bit later. Oh? I looked at him and says, oh, kyo? Kenda, if Mamiji can drive, then I can drive. तो मैं पहला थोड़ा जिहा गुस्सा हो गया मैं सोचा हैं किथों आ गई गल कि ਇਹਦਾ ਕੀ ਮਤਲਬ ਕਿ ਤੂੰ you're a male and you're not female or you're older than your mum or you're clever than your mum, what sort of conversation is going on in his head? And I said, what do you mean? And he just looked at me and went, I'm taller than my mum. So that's when I saw his innocence, when I realized that he was actually just genuinely saying, I was taller than my mum. That's what you told me last time. The only stoppage that I had in my brain was I'm not tall enough. I can't touch the pedals and I can't. And that's when I went, took the key out. I said, grab, get in the key. And he goes, really? So he jumps in the driver's seat. Okay, what do I do now? But by the way, since the age of 6 to the age of 10, he's been watching every single thing. So his foot was on the brake, foot was on the accelerator, sitting waiting. He had a gear for the drive. He knows I'm going to put it into that drive, etc., etc. In my head, 60 seconds lagge hone just to coordinate his head. And I've been blessed with some grounds. So off he went. He took the car. I videoed him. He was 10 years old. He ran the whole ground. Got 4 acres of space. So he was sitting there. He was driving around perfectly okay. So do you see what's happened here? All this time, he's willing to wait with anticipation until the moment he gets the information to move forward. So he had the information. He then started his education of how, which foot, pair kitte rakhna, pair nahi kitte rakhna, chalana kitta. And I said to him, that first lesson that you had with me, don't put your foot on the accelerator, I said, because it's an automatic car. Just keep your foot near the brake and let it go in its own 5 mile an hour creep, as we call it. So that all I wanted him to do was to get the feeling of the car. Is that right? So he then practiced, and trust me, he still moves all the cars around and he still drives them around the whole grounds, so he still manages. Now I don't need to go out with him. Does that make sense? You know? So at this point, this final point, which is going to be possibly, you could say it's an exam or it's some kind of a pass rate, this point here is known as what we call the credentials, or you could say the award, or you could say certification point. Okay? So, certification point. Now you've got 3 clear points. At this stage, who drives in this room? Do we really go through steering, windscreen, a rear view mirror, foot brake, hand brake? Do we do this now? Why? Because it's moved into the unconscious realm. Is that fair? We're not really thinking about these things anymore. They're becoming unconscious. So, in order to make that go into unconsciousness, we had to have been certified. Once you've got your license, exam pass, you're going to accept in your brain that you have now moved forward. Does that make sense? So the learning capacity, how can this relate to everything we do in our life? Unconsciousness, I'm now aware I don't know. I now crave. I wish to learn. I have a magnetic propulsion pulling me towards knowing the answer. This is the key. We do this internally in our own head. When we find something of interest that we would like to learn, guess what happens? We've already moved ourselves into this space, and this magnetic pull, the education point, is what pulls you forward. That shifts you to conscious practice. And when you're at conscious practice, you move over here. So this actually has another writing, which I've got the same color, but this has another benefit here as well. In life, have you ever met a child who's in a negative loop? Oh, I can't do that either. Oh, I can't do that either. Oh, I can't do that either. I'm not good at that. These kind of things. Does that make sense? We've all had this sort of feeling. How's about an adult then? Forget the children. How's about adults who are in those sort of loops? Would you like to know what this actually means here? This is my own Synergist methodology. So this is the base of neurolinguistics. If you've not studied it, it's called NLP, neurolinguistics. This basically is a context for learning. Now, adding to this, there's 2 loops that people are not really too aware of. Loop 1, it sits here. So if I draw it here, I don't want to ruin your picture, but I'll put it here. Okay? The other loop is here, and we bring it here. And the difference that makes that change over here, buddy, you were talking about it at lunch. I actually speak specifically about this all the time. The answer is attitude. Okay? What happens here is we loop between, oh, I don't know that. Oh my God, now I don't know that. Then we go again. I don't know that either. And all that happens is the energy goes lower, lower, lower. Gets into a format of depression. Some time to go. Over here, if we can work in this loop, we move ourselves into a, oh, I don't know that. Oh, how can I do that then? Oh, now I know how to do it. And then we keep moving around in this higher loop. How do we move from there to there? It is a physiological thing. We have physiology of ourselves. We have to move ourselves forward within our own psychology. We have to keep ourselves surrounded with sangat, people who uplift us, that sort of thing, because we're all adept to become our surroundings. Bani teaches us sangat, pangat, mahibab. So we become our surrounding. Is that correct? So if we hang out with people who sit in this loop, we're more likely to take that on as well, or this loop, we're likely to take that on. Okay? So in this positive sangat, we'll keep ourselves vibrating higher. And the honest truth is, there is nothing, we were talking about at lunchtime, there's nothing but Bani. The honest truth. Harik cheez vich hai. Every single thing you want to find, go back and restrict yourself into there. If I can just share, I know we're all into Sukhi, but can I just share, honestly, I speak a lot in multicultural environments as well. So I speak in a lot of Muslims, Shia conferences and speaks in that a lot. So one of my conversations over there, I was sharing, if I can just share very quickly, I said, keep yourself positive, with surrounding books and anything you want to talk about. So if you want, I can give you a list of books that you can read which are parallel. None of them, we have to go back to our Bani, Anand Sahib Path, sare kachiyan hain. They're all kachiyan except for the one with the Guru in it. Okay, na? Like, they all do something. I had a lovely conversation with somebody, and it was actually a school teacher. She was a headmaster. And we were in a conference. If you have been in any multicultural conferences, this particular one was specifically for Shia individuals. And they are so heavily driven. They really are tight as a community. Yeah? So this lady stood up and she said, you've just mentioned Think and Grow Rich as a book by Napoleon Hill. If you haven't read that, read it. You've just mentioned As a Man Thinketh. You've just mentioned all these other books. But now you're telling me that all of this is out there, but we should ignore our Quran? And I said, do you know what? What a beautiful question. So it's quite aggressive, isn't it? If you think about it realistically. Remember earlier on I was talking to you about bullies? You have to say, thank you, don't you? And smile. Don't forget that one, right? So these are the things that we move forward. So I said, oh, thank you very much for asking such a great question. So instantly it resolved the problem. And I said to her, is that really a problem? I said, let me tell you, there's nothing but the religious scriptures. Does that make sense? So if we do not understand every word of the scriptures, we need something else to ignite our soch. But the key is this: read any book and have the urge, the education point, to go back to Sri Guru Tantan, Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji, to find the answer there, because it's there as well. And the moment you make those two connections, do you know what happens? You feel amazing. You start thinking, wow, I'm getting closer to my Guru. Does that make sense? So even if you learn it in lame tongue, English basics, transfer it into the Bani and find it. Khoj karo. Where is it there? And then connect the both things together, and you'll never have this contradiction about, should I read this book, should I read that book? Does that make sense? So as soon as I said that, actually I had a standing ovation with all the team. They all stood up and said, we've never found that problem ever before. So does that explain like the 4 stages of kind of learning? Yeah? And has anybody studied NLP at all? Neurolinguistics? No? I know you have, of course, yeah. Can I please strongly urge that you study NLP? There's plenty of online courses, plenty of offline courses. If you want connecting to a course person, I can train you towards that. But it's amazing at interpersonal skills, how it opens up human behavior. You really have to study NLP. There's no questions around it.
Recommend a book or something.
Hanji, if you just Google, the actual author of NLP is I'll give you one of the guys who's heavily there, still there. His name is Bandler, Dr. Bandler. And just search Dr. Bandler, Neurolinguistics, and if you're ready to connect with everybody else and take my details, and I'll connect you directly with Dr. Bandler, and you can actually learn straight from him as opposed to anybody else. Does that make sense? Or we've got other people as well. Some of my own mentees who are working around the world. His name is David Key, one of the most amazingly humble guys who teaches this as well. So I can connect you with all these people who teach NLP. This is basis of NLP. Now, NLP is used for interpersonal skills, full stop. And it's not soft skill, trust me. It is the only way to human connection with each other. But I found virtually everything that NLP has ever taught me is in the Bani as well. But I never understood it when I read it the first time. Once I backed it up with some other stuff and I went back and found it again, I went, oh my God, it's already here. Does that make sense? So in NLP, there's some really beautiful, lovely facets inside there. And we talk, I'm sure you're aware of this, how we take information in. There are 3 modalities. Can I share them? Do you know them, or shall I just complete them? Yeah, try again? Yeah, okay. So there are 3 modalities, which means ways we take information in. We're either a visual, visual, or we're an auditory, or we're kinesthetic. If I share it, you'll understand what I mean. Visual people, they tend to be, like the Italians, they tend to be very, 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 very visual and very, very open and stuff like that. When a person actually explains things to you using their hands, looks around, their eyes are moving all over the place, they usually come across as a visual and learner. Does that make sense? So their imprint period, the stuff that they take in, is called visual. Yeah. So with them, with a child, if you're in that communication, try not to direct them towards reading. So they're not going to read that easily. They're going to be much more practical, much more communicative with you in that context. We have rehearsal of some kind. Does that make sense? Or time to watch something as opposed to read. This is a visual cortex. But when a child or a human is auditory, they tend not to be very heavy in movement, and they tend to be what's called in this midsection. Okay? So this section is classified as visual. This midsection is called the auditory. And then we have kinesthetic, which is around the tummy, the stomach area. Kinesthetic people are usually the ones who want to, if you showed me something and said, for example, that's a really nice cup, I'll go, if I was kinesthetic, I'd go, oh, yeah. You'll notice I'll touch it, or I'll feel it, or I'll work something out, because I have to touch something. It's kinesthetic, yeah? Some people, they need to hug you, or they need to say sasigalji, and they have to go like this. Does that make sense? So you have those type of people, they are very kinesthetic, they're feeling orientated. And then you've got the other element of people who are in the auditory, they tend to be reserved. They tend to listen as opposed to touch, feel, connect, contact. Does that make sense? They're usually the thinkers, the ones who think things through a lot. And then you have the visual cortex, they're the ones usually loud, jumping around, having some kind of role reaction, that kind of stuff. Is that helping a little bit? Yeah? So now how does that relate to how we connect and communicate to? We already touched the 3 other areas, which are physiology, tonality, and language. Yeah? But they all fit into that context. So that hopefully answers that first question, Abhijit. Yeah? So if we can match people, that's the key. I have already said to Virja over here that if you would like to, any stage, mere valo seva. Any stage, this is a £1,500 ticket per person. But it's seva todi valo. If anybody would like to attend, tusi contact karo, Virja de naal, and we'll book up a time. We'll create a whole philosophy. There's a whole discovery leadership program which I've written over the years. It's based on the Synegus methodology, which is something that I'm the author of. And it will touch some of the stuff that will go into some sincere depths of how to connect with humans as well. Because beyond this, there's another 4 what we call peripheral external modalities. In ourselves, shall I cover it a little bit? Have we got enough time? That's my take. Is that enough? It's better me to look at you and say, have I got time? Is that all right? Do you know what? Just throw something at me when you're finished. The reality is this, that we have, every human is categorized within, by the way, we're not going to categorize and put a label on a human, right? But every human has a learning profile. So I cover this again. I'll take some of this off. Oops, could be viable. Every human has what we classify as a learning profile. Is anybody here into psychometrics? Human psychometrics, anybody? Are you into psychometrics? Okay, so...
The ENTP personality.
Very similar, yes, very similar. So in ENTP, Myers-Briggs, all these kind of philosophies, they all have an undercurrent. So I'm going to give you the undercurrent, the foundation information. This is also 2,500 years old. That's been filtered over the years and become a little bit more academic so people can touch on it. It's actually called DISC. Has anybody heard of it before? DISC. Anybody heard of this before? Okay, so I'll cover it quickly for you. First one is D, logically, I, S, and C. Are we good? Okay, so now this principally is the first 4 areas of each psychometric. They are then filtered into 4 again, 4 again, 4 again. It's infinite. So if you follow Myers-Briggs, you'll have 32 profiles. Okay? And if you follow a good friend of mine, Roger Hamilton's work, you'll have 40 plus. But they're actually all of them, if you shrink them down, further and further, they come down to the 4 key psychometrics. Is that correct? Yeah? Okay, so can I cover this? D stands for what we classify. This is an externalization and an internalization. Yeah? So D stands for dominant. So dominant. I stands for influencer. S stands for stability. C stands for, I'll put down here as compliant. Now, compliancy does not mean they don't have a view, doesn't mean they're not creative. It just means that they'd rather have a fixed structure in mind. So I'm going to give you a verbal down on this because it's quite deep. Is that okay? So the course that I've donated, actually I've donated all my courses, you can have any one of them. The course I've donated will cover, it's called a Discovery Leadership Foundation. And it's very in-depth, it's very beautifully intensive, and it really does change the way you think at the end of the day. And you'll be able to connect with other people. And I'll give you the code of this in the end. So dominant individuals are the ones who, you might know some of them in this room, i.e. yourself. A dominant individual is somebody who's very end goal orientated. Yeah, they've always got to see the end goal. They don't necessarily care about the steps in between. They just want to see where have I got to go. They just start working. They don't need details. They're not focused on easy steps. They just want to, that's where I've got to go. You said open up a shop, so I'm just going to go find a shop. Dukaan khol tiji. There you are, it's open. Yeah? So they're very goal-oriented, they tend to run really, really fast before anybody else. Their downside, to an extent, because if you ask a dominant about this being a downside, they won't see it as a lesser, they'll see it as a positive. They're not too aware of other people's worlds. They don't really care whether you're listening, whether you get it, whether you don't get it. They just want to talk to you and they're telling you, I know where I'm going. In their language, can I give you a little hint quickly? You'll notice a lot of I, meh. When the person talks a lot of I, me, you'll notice they've got a dominant character because their character fills around themselves. Now that's a natural position. The influencer, is that making sense? Yeah? A few nods will be good. A few nods will be really nice. And a smile just like yours will be even nicer, if that's okay. Influencers are individuals who love to influence. They're all about this talk, chat, community, fun, having a laugh. If you said party, they'll say, where? With who? Are you coming? Would you like me? Are you going to be with me? Are we going to enjoy ourselves?
So we can say it's Punjabi prabhavshali.
Yes, bilkul. Milap. Yeah, that kind of stuff. A very, very, very fast, interactive. With them, they are individuals who love to start things. They love to start things. They're not necessarily the best person to finish things. They're usually the ones got left open cans, open papers everywhere all over the place, all over the place. Or they'll start a project and won't necessarily finish. But you'll notice it in children, yes? You'll start to notice it in children as well. People are working there. But that doesn't need to be changed. It does not need to be changed. So when you've done the course I like share, you can actually add something to that child. You don't need to change them. The biggest challenge we face within teaching today is we're trying to make everybody vanilla. You're not listening. You're not paying attention. So we embed that further. So they may have an influence environment and they might want to have more of what we classify as an experiential training. They might want more interactive training. Does that make sense? They're still going to be bright. They're still going to be exactly the same. The dominant people won't even listen to you until they know why they're listening to you. Mera ke fayda? Mera kuch milna? Ke nahi milna? Yeah? If I don't get that, I'm not going to start. If I was an I, I'd say, okay, are we going to do something? Kis paase jana? Kathe baithange? You know, we have a laugh, we'll talk about it, then I'm interested. Then we have these two energies here. Sorry, I've only got one color. These are classified as extroverts. So if they're tired, exhausted, they won't sit on their own. They want sangat. They'll go out, they'll connect with more people. So they're more interested in sitting, having a conversation, community connection, lokan de seva kita, bahar kita, kuch na kuch kita, just to connect up with people. Does that make sense? And these two people, stability, are what we call heartfelt individuals. These energies tend to be very kinesthetic, yeah? Connected, touchy, feely, what we could say mamta as a whole. even if you're not stability, at time of having a child, the stability element of it increases. So your mum, that increases naturally with hormones. But in context of this, for the father as well, paternal as well as maternal, stability people tend to be very collaborative. They seem to be very easy connectors with key, humble individuals. They're the ones who are always there topping up the water for you without you even asking. They're the ones who are always there making sure everyone's getting on with each other. Yeah? Koi lad pad nahi, koi argument nahi hai. Does that make sense? Yeah? So they're very interested in how your communication and the community runs. Okay? The individuals who are amazing at stability control, that means they are reliable. Their base is so strong that ਤੁਸੀਂ ਜਿੱਦਾਂ ਇੱਕ ਬੰਦਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਤੁਸੀਂ 100 ਬੰਦੇ ਖਿਲਾਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ. And they won't filter, they won't fade away from that. So very, very powerful in a community like this. Very, very interesting, very important. Yeah? But these people require safety zones, comfort zones. They don't want to recreate the wheel all the time. Does this make sense? They're not interested in building the whole principle. They want to be a part of your journey. Okay? They don't want to lead the journey. They want to be a part of the journey, as opposed to the around. No, none of these experiences or none of these psychologies or psychometric profiles are better than the other. Let me just get that very clear. There's not a competition of which one you think you are. Oh my God, I should be that one more, I should be more that one. It's whichever one you are. Okay? Here, this is compliant individuals. Compliant individuals are constantly at a state of, does it make sense? Is it logical? Are there clear mathematical steps? Does it add up? Is this just a charlatan's conversation? Yes? Is it scientifically backed? Meaning, can I reverse engineer it? So if I can't reverse engineer it, it can't be scientific. Does that make sense? So is it collaborative? Don't care. They're more interested in, does it make sense? Does 1 add 1 equal 2? Or has somebody said, this is 11? Which now becomes more of a conversed spiritual conversation. Yes, 1 add 1 becomes 11 instead of 2. Does that make sense? So they're much more interested in process, standards, steps, clarity, logic, facts, super detail, no detail. Both very powerful to get things done. Okay? You get this person, they'll get it led. They can be an absolute amazing leader, but their focus is on details. Details is are the steps in place? Are we going to help each other? Okay? This one, it's all about me. So they're up there, they want an accolade. Keep taking pictures, keep taking photos. It's me, I'm doing this. They're in that sort of space. But these two are introverted energies. Introverted energies are energies that require themselves in solitary to recharge their batteries, making it simple. So extroverted energies require other people. Introverted energies would rather read a book on their own. Yeah? Thoda alone, anand kana, just on their own. The other ones find anand in community. These ones find anand kalle na baithe. So is that helping a little bit? So how does that help us today? The last thing I want to share, if I can, the key of this is there are an inside and an outside of oneself. We are all 4 of these. Samjhay mere gal? Son, you got to smile. You look really dangerous like that otherwise. Mainu dar lagda, main to muh nahi dekh raha. Listen, these are basically inside and outside. How am I on the inside, which I can't change, by the way, and how I'm on the outside, which I can change. Mask pa liya, change this, kapde badal le. Baron, jidda marji lagna, andron, udda hi hona. We convert the world in exactly the same way. So now bringing it together, this is the modality, this is the understanding of learning. Okay? But the other one I gave you, visual order to connect, is the input methodology. Yeah? And this is what we do on the inside, how we make sense of things. Does this make sense? Yeah? So here, there are 2 elements. One is called the natural, and the other one is the adapted. I'll use adapted today. This is easier. Natural and adapted. So the natural self never changes. The natural is how I see the world, how I saw the world as a child, and how I'll carry on seeing the world as an adult and even Sianaban. Okay? But the adapted is how I adapt in the now. ਹੁਣ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਇਹਦਾ ਮਤਲਬ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਿ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਬੋਲਦੇ ਨਹੀਂ, ਪਰ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਇਸ ਵੇਲੇ ਚੁੱਪ ਆ, ਠੀਕ ਹੈ? ਕਿਉਂ? because you're adapting to what needs to be done. Right now, chup di dat, because you're listening. Because if my mouth's working, I can't hear. Does that make sense? Because I'm listening to my own voice. So the context of natural and adapted, I can wear the clothes as often as I want. Jidda marji. I need to speak, I'll stand on stage. I need to listen, I'll go quiet in the back. Yeah? I need to be practical, I'll go and be practical. If I want to help people seva, I'll do seva as well. Jithe marji ponjo. Okay? So what is the purpose of this? How will I know my adapted, how will I know my natural? Do you know what the problem is? Nearly all the time. Have you heard these energy drops? Do we all sometimes get high in energy and then go, oh, aaj mere dil nahi karda uthna. Is it just me or is it just everybody? Yeah? Kadi na kadi thak janda banda na? So do you want to know how to contra that? The code's already here. If I touch it very, very briefly, if you know your natural and you return to your natural every 24 hours, you won't feel the drop dips. Yeah? So when we have a connection, if I'm a quiet person, I need to have some me time. Just once, and it doesn't make a difference how long it is. It could be 5 minutes, it could be 5 seconds, but I need to consciously be aware that I'm taking time out for me. Hana Benji? Interesting times. Stability people never think of themselves. They're always there in service of others. Okay? So, with them, they need to have some me time every 24 hours. D people, the dominant people, need to plan, need to see the visualization of where they're going. Kyun khulna hai dukaan? Why? They need to check it. Am I still on task? If I'm not on task, guess what? They get distracted, they'll leave the job and they'll start something else. The I people need to make sure, are they being cared for? Are they still popular? Are we still okay? Yeah? We're still friends, aren't we? So they need to have that community element of themselves and check. And then the compliant individuals need to make sure, am I on my correct steps? Is this making sense? Is it helping a little bit? Yeah. So if you know yourself, thank you for the voice. I bet you that was a child, yes? Good job. It's Simran, your last word. Hanji? Just Simran. So well done to you, just Simran. So the context is, who am I on the inside? The moment I know me, my man, I can start to push it towards the way I need to look after me as well. Does that make sense? If you're a D or an I, you don't have a me problem. Trust me, all you do is look after yourself. And if you're an S and a C, all you're doing is probably facilitating other people for the rest of your life. But not thak janda hai if they don't understand these sort of things. So just a quick understanding, if you know yourself naturally, return within 24 hours, you can then be an adaptation for the rest of your day. So if I shared something with yourself, if I said very, very simply, if I may, can I just reset that and go for another page? Haji, I was just thinking about opening another one, doesn't matter. Haji?
The white, no.
Okay, that's better. Maybe.
The other one.
The blue one?
That one?
The one before that.
I'll do this thing.
देखिए community की जरूरत है. Teacher ji, please help me. It's easier. So what I'm going to share with yourself is a very simple understanding, and I'll give you a practical before I leave, because obviously I'm aware of time ho chaliya. Am I right? I was going to give you a little quick practical to understand something, how we can make sense of all of this if it's possible. Okay? So if I said to you, thank you, Benji. If I said to you this, and I know you're struck by my artwork. Yes, koi gal nahi, signatures later. So if I said to you, this is Southall. Okay? This is what aha jada school hai, it's here. Okay? If I said, can you get to the school, what would the answer be? Yeah, principally. You're sitting here, right? If I went to a person who's a territorial army expert, okay, and I gave him this map, first of all, he may laugh, but besides the laughing part, I gave him the map, so this is Southall, our school here. Can you get there? He'll say, yes, sir, absolutely, I can. And then he'll just stand there looking at me. By the way, I know this because I've done this. He stood there looking at me. And I'm thinking, what's the problem? Sir, I need the start coordinates. Where am I coming from? You're asking me to go somewhere without getting, I can get there. You have to tell me where I am now. Is that fair? Yeah. How can you get here if you don't know where you are? How can you get here if you haven't got a start point? Even in the sat-nav, the first thing it checks is where are you? Is that correct? Yeah. So my question to yourself is, if you don't know you, how are you going to get here? If you don't know you, how are you going to adapt to anybody in this world? Does that make sense? You can stand in front of me and you can say, I can adapt to anybody. Yes, correct. But you will also get tired. You will also get distracted. You will also be unhappy at some stage. So what if I know me more? Does that make sense? So in the course, the very clear steps is, so number one is to know, I'll just put down me. Number two is to know others. And number three is to learn how to adapt. Okay? If you don't know you, you'll never really know others. If you don't know others, you'll never know how to adapt to them properly. So has everybody in this room understood me a little bit? Yes. Thank you, children. I even had an adult, somebody murmured in the background. I guess, but has everybody understand this? Now ask the question, are you all the same? No. So how comes you're understanding this if there's not a science behind my delivery? Have you noticed? Hanji, bete, absolutely. You're looking at each other. Spot on. Very clever. Some of us have different clothes. Yes, we are very unique. Anna? All of us are equal. We're equal? Saying, do you want to come over here? Looks like it.
We're humans, so we get to understand it.
How's this then? We're humans, and what if we knew the code of communication? How about if we used, by the way, Barney is written like this. How's about if we learnt how to adapt to D, I, S, and C in one sentence? Would that be valuable? Yeah? It's possible. I've just done it in front of you. How about if we wanted to? And I said to you, there is a code. So the D's in this room were going, I want that code. I want to be there first. So what if I showed you? Did you hear me say? I'll show you how to adapt. That's the I. They're interested in the practical. Yeah? And connect. What one's that one? Come on. Stability. S, connect. Yeah? And if I made it in a step-by-step process, if I could show you how to you do it yourself, the compliance going, there's steps. Isn't that beautiful? Yeah. Just one symbol flow, and you can attract all four types of energies. Man, dhyan. Vaheguru Ji ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji ki Fateh. Thank you very much.
I think nobody wanted to stop at this point, but we all have this time limit for everything. So we come to an end, but I would like to say thank you very much. ਤੁਸੀਂ ਸਾਰੇ ਦਿਨ ਇੱਥੇ ਸਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਬਿਤਾਇਆ ਔਰ ਸਾਡੇ ਅਲੱਗ-ਅਲੱਗ ਗਰੁੱਪ ਨਾਲ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਕੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਸ਼ੇਅਰ ਕੀਤੇ that was wonderful, and we expect you would keep that association going which has started today, and it would be a long association. Thank you very much. ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ